Hi, Rosie Melidi here from lifeisshortmagazine.com, and I'm just wondering how many of you out there have thought about packing the 9 to 5 or packing up your business and moving to the tropics. Yeah, I'd say plenty of you have done. And I'm going to interview a very special person today. It's somebody who I have followed for a long time, and her name is Nadine Haysini, and she is the author of Happier Than a Billionaire, and I've read both her books and they are hilarious. They're about her life of packing up from the tri-state area in the States, and she packed in her job, her and her husband, they sold all their possessions and moved to Costa Rica. And she has written about her experiences in 2 books. As I say, it's called Happier Than a Billionaire, and you can follow her on happierthanabillionaire.com, and it's a fantastic book. So it's if you want a belly load of laughs, do buy it. So let's have a chat with Nadine about how she made this possible and how she recreated her life down in Central America. You're very welcome, Nadine.
Hi.
How are you? Okay, so Nadine, I'm looking at you. You're obviously not in your 70s or 80s. You're in your early 30s or maybe early 20s.
Oh, yes, exactly. Let's stick with that. No, I'm 43. I'm happy to say I'm 43.
Okay, similar to myself. So the thing is, you're not retired. That's what I'm trying to say. Or you're not of the retirement age, but you are actually after retiring to Costa Rica, which a lot of people do from the States, but they wait until they're in their 60s, 70s, and that's when they start living the, what do you call it?
One might say the smarter version of doing it. Some might think, but no, I had to do it in my 30s. I had to skip the 30 years of income. That's what I had to do. So
let's just go back a little bit, because you started this big adventure 6 years ago. Yourself and your husband Rob, you're both chiropractors, is that right, in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, very busy. 2 practices, 12-hour days we worked. It was a hectic lifestyle.
Okay, so you had your own practices, you had your own businesses, and you're working, you said 12-hour days, and so you probably weren't seeing much of each other, or...
No, it was worse than that. The quality time wasn't very good. You're just so tired at the end of the night. You're aggravated. You just tend not to be kind to the people around you when you're suffering from a lot of stress. When it starts off with little things, becomes bigger things, until, you see a shift in your relationship after that type of stress.
Okay, so you're saying you got nasty with each other. You had rows.
I'll take, I do a lot more of that than my husband, so I'll say yes. He gets quiet, I get, a little razzy. Yeah.
So, at some stage then, you you said, no more of this. So, what was that trigger?
My husband first came up with the idea that it isn't sustainable, what we're doing. And it was funny because it happened around the time... a little bit of backstory. We were like every other American. You have a business, you paid off your student loans, and you want to reward yourself. So you tend to, you buy your first home, and then you want wood floors, and then you just start doing things that you think are going to make yourself happy, and really it doesn't. So my husband bought this 265-gallon fish tank. And if anybody knows how big that is, it takes up an entire wall. Okay. So because he bought this fish tank and made it a reef tank, which is even harder to care for, he had a lot of cleaning to do. So it was one day off was Sunday, and he spent the entire day upside down in the tank with a toothbrush, cleaning the algae off the reef, right? So he's in the fish tank doing this. He's upside down, he's aggravated, and I was reading a book about Buddhism, and there was a line that said that possessions cause suffering. kind of looked up at him and I said, isn't that interesting, Rob? It says possessions cause suffering. And he stood up on that ladder and looked at me. He goes, we're crazy. I'm crazy. What am I doing? Why am I spending my entire day cleaning this fish tank that I thought was going to make myself happy? And it was one of those moments that the light bulb went off. He was very much for this move. I wasn't. I was very scared. I had a lot of trepidation. And it really was until he got sick. His stomach got really bad from working so much. And he was in the hospital. And it was until he was on the gurney and I looked at him that I realized it's not sustainable, this lifestyle. That something had to change. And I think what was a little different about our story is it had to be all or nothing for us. We couldn't just pull back the hours or, for us, it meant completely changing everything.
Well, he got sick from stress, was it? So
yeah.
So,
and this is, and it's a shame that it takes your health to kind of motivate you to make changes. And then it was really then that I said, we're not going to live like this anymore. And if you think we can do this, then let's just do it. Let's just, not, because I listened to everybody, Rosie. Nobody told me to do this. We did it at 37. Parents were mortified, absolutely mortified. 10 years into my profession and I quit. That's your stride. Everybody reaches the 10-year mark and think that's it.
The American dream kicks in. So
it kicks in. It's happening. I finally built up a practice. We finally paid off our student loans. Everything was working, for us. And then I'm just telling everybody, well, that's it. Like I'm a teenager or, 18. I'm backpacking across Europe. No, my family was just like, you can't do this. You will absolutely regret this. You will never be able to get back the things that you have already accumulated. And you know what? The risk of not doing it, far outweighed the risk of actually doing it. I was thinking if I were to look back in, 5 years and think that I didn't do it, that would be heartbreaking. That was it. Wow. Sold it all off.
And why Costa Rica? Had you been there on holidays lots? Had you traveled lots? Was it somewhere that you always wanted to go?
You know what? I wish I had a good answer to all this, but we did research other things. I mean, research the Caribbean. Things were a little too expensive for us. And remember, we didn't have that lifetime of savings when you're 65, 70 doing it. So we were just on such a ridiculous budget that a lot of these islands we couldn't afford. There was some countries that there was an issue with crime that made us uncomfortable. Costa Rica seemed to have it all. And it was a time when a lot of people talk about Costa Rica now, whether it's to live or vacation. It's got a good buzz. Back then, you didn't hear as much. And we didn't know anything about it. All we did was my husband came home, 2 plane tickets. Let's see what it's like. I landed there. Yeah, seriously. It's like ridiculous. This whole story is just so ridiculous. I can't even believe that it happened to me. But we landed and I knew. I knew when I walked off that plane that it was the place.
So did you go on a short holiday first to check it out?
Sure. Yeah, maybe 5 days. And we just, driving around and the thing that really changed it for me was I had to go to the bank to exchange money or doing something. And the bank at that time in Costa Rica is like a 3-hour wait. So I was sitting there and it's just the last thing you want to do on vacation. But as I was sitting there, I saw that anybody who was older, who had a disability, a woman with small children, a pregnant woman, all went to the front of the line.
Oh, wow.
And nobody huffed and puffed. Nobody went... and I seriously, I love the United States. I'm not knocking it, but don't put a bunch of people in front of the line at a very busy bank. It's just going to really stress people out. So, and it just made the wait longer and longer, but nobody reacted to it the way I was reacting to it.
So,
and that's when,
it was the people that actually, you saw a different way of life. You saw the people.
Yeah, much bigger respect for people. A more understanding, a slower pace. And I needed that, Rosie. I mean, it was the thing that we were lacking in our life. It was more that than anything else that Costa Rica had. Okay.
So you then went back to Pennsylvania, sold your big house and your practices. Is that putting it mildly? Sold the fish tank, I take it.
Got it. Yeah, that went too.
And packed your bags and went to Costa Rica. And did you then rent in Costa Rica, or did you buy a house, or what did you do there?
Sure. We have a piece of property that we bought. So we thought we would, eventually build a house on that, and thus the sequel, which we've read. But when we first landed, we just rented. Actually right now we're still renting. And it's an easy thing to do. Most of the houses come furnished. Mm-hmm. So you can come down with a couple suitcases, like I did with my dog and cat, and you can find a place that has everything that you need.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the recommendations, I think you said at some stage, is that wait till you get down there, because I've looked online at Costa Rica and it's actually quite expensive when you're looking online to actually go rent. And I think it's resounding wherever you want to go in the world, that if you're going to move, wait till you actually get there to rent long term, because sometimes online the prices are up an awful lot, whereas if you get referrals within the country, that you actually get a better deal. And is that what happened to you?
When we came to find our place, we came back for, I think it was 7 days, a month before our big move. And we said, we have to find something. So when we move in a month, we have a place that we can go to. And we were staying at a bed and breakfast, and we asked the woman there. And the woman knew somebody. You see, that's exactly how this all works. And, I think the biggest misconception about people coming to Central America is it's just so cheap. Like, it's just the cheapest place in the world to live. It's not true anymore, because you have to think of transportation of goods and things like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's the cheapest place in the world to live. But just like any other tourist area or place, things online don't necessarily reflect what's really happening on the ground. So even if you came and you rented something that was a little more pricey than you're used to, within a few months you'll find something a lot cheaper, because that's just how it works here.
Okay. And because you got a really sweet deal because you moved then to the coast, and you have a sweet deal where you're staying now, don't you? I mean,
it's my husband is just the can-do kind of guy. I mean, in any circumstances, if we were stranded out in the middle of the ocean on a raft, he's the can-do guy. We're going to get back to shore. He's just such the optimist. And I first lived in the mountains in Costa Rica, which was lovely. And when we decided to move to the beach, I knew it might be problematic because it's more expensive. We're living near Tamarindo, which is a very big tourist area here. And as you know, the tourist areas in any country are more expensive. But he said, no, we're going to do good. We'll find a place. And we just, got hooked up with a couple from the States that needed somebody to watch their house, somebody reliable that they got along with. And we rent a house for $150 a month.
Wow.
It's a little crazy. And I'm not saying everybody can do that, but we lived here. When they met us, we were here 3 years or so, 3.5 years. We weren't somebody who just moved here that was testing out Costa Rica. We already knew, we put our footprints in this country. We're staying. So we had and we still do have a good relationship with them. So there are these things that can happen here.
Yeah. It's actually getting your footing in the place and actually getting to know people and networking, really. That's really...
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay. So it can be more expensive than that. So what's your budget, if you don't mind me asking, to live off each month? Is it very low or is it high?
My budget when we were living in the mountains, which was a lot cheaper because it's a central part of the country, goods are all there, farmers markets are very abundant. So it was around $1,000 a month. That was our budget. When we moved to the coast, it's more expensive because to transport goods here, gas is very, very expensive in this country. So we're more at $1,200 and a month. And that might be more like $1,300 a month if we do some, extracurricular activities, excursions, fun stuff to do.
Which you do loads of. I've seen your blog.
Yeah, but now we have these cheap kayaks, so now we don't have to pay. We bought these real cheap kayaks, get holes in them. My husband patched up, and now it's free. Our fun things we do are free. Mm-hmm. So I would, I roughly say around that number that's a good amount that you should expect when you come here to pay.
And do you have the same sort of lifestyle? Do you eat out lots like you would in the States, or do you eat like real fresh produce? Now tell us the truth, or do you eat processed food? Come on.
I do not eat out practically at all.
Okay.
because around here, it's a tourist area, it's very expensive. I think it surprises people that they come here, and the dinners can be so pricey. And plus, when we moved here, it was really important to us that we were not replicating our life that we had in the States. It's just too expensive, because the goods that you're used to eating, let's just say a brand of cookie, it's twice as much here because of import taxes.
Okay.
So it's a great way to get healthy and get in shape, because who wants to pay $6 for a bag of cookies when you can pay 50 cents for a melon?
Okay.
So, so it's interesting. Even if you don't want to lose weight, just the fact that you don't want to pay that money for the cookies will make you buy the healthier stuff. So when I was in the mountains, a week's worth of fruits and vegetables, which were a lot of our meals, a little bit of meat, fruits and vegetables, was $20 a week for the fruits and vegetables.
And it's a little more fresh produce grown from
the best. The beach is more expensive. I would say add 20% more for the produce here. But it's important that we make our own meals. Great stir fries, we freeze them, because it's just not in our budget to go out and eat all the time.
Okay. And to get around then, transport-wise, I'm asking this question because I know the answer, because I've read your books, and you guys, you have to buy these books because they're really funny. Nadine's accounts are really hilarious. And you bought a car, but I mean, the potholes are atrocious over there. I mean, we have potholes in Ireland, but they're like crazy over in Costa Rica. I mean, they're like wells. They're like huge.
Yeah, the wells, yeah.
And it's like, so I think you have a scooter now, and but is that another change of lifestyle? Because everybody gets around by scooter there, supposedly, I think. And is it expensive? Is gas expensive? Is that sort of,
I think the last time I checked, gas was at least like $5 a gallon.
Okay.
So it's very, very pricey. So my husband had this idea when we lived in the mountains. We're going to get a scooter. Now, I have never been on, a motorcycle or scooter. It's the last thing I wanted. But he said, if the scooter is roughly $1,000, it's going to pay for itself in gas, because our other car is an SUV, which is just a gas guzzler. So we bought the scooter and we took it everywhere. Everywhere. We put all our groceries on it. We did so many wonderful trips on it, and it's such a great thing to have. However, my last blog post, my husband took a spill on it, and he needed stitches on his hands. So besides that, okay,
life is wonderful.
Life is wonderful, and it's great. And I recommend to people, if you feel confident, if you come down here, you don't necessarily have to get that big expensive car, because cars are taxed a lot in here, in Costa Rica. My car in the States would have been $6,000. It was $12,000 here.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's a very big expense. You can get away with a scooter. You really can, and get a lot done, and, not invest so much in the car, especially if you don't even know if you're going to be here long term.
And could you speak Spanish before you went, or did you?
I can barely speak Spanish now, Rosie. It's like the most horrible thing. Oh, I know, it's bad. I'm so awful. My husband, so much better at it, and it's interesting this happened, because you just in America we give a lot of grief to people who don't speak the language. It's kind of like, speak the language. Why don't you learn the language type of thing we do. And when I came here, now the shoe's on the other foot. I don't know the language, and I'm having a very difficult time picking it up. And I really thought it was just going to be like this. I could do it. My husband picks it up so much better than me. I don't know why I have that much of a difficulty, but it made me so much kinder of a person. When the shoe's on the other foot, it's a great learning experience.
Oh, I'm just after having a flashback to one of your chapters in your book where you were actually, Rob was giving out to you, your husband was giving out to you, because you had mixed up the words for punch and pay, and you had thought, and he was going around, I'm going to punch you now, to everybody, to waiters.
3 years. 3 years he said that to people. It's funny when people would give reactions to us, because I just assumed, maybe we're gringo, or my husband's wearing these, Arnold Schwarzenegger, cyborg, sunglasses, bald head, muscle shirt. I just assumed that was why. But honest God, he's telling people he's going to punch them. Or at the farmer's market to children, selling us melons. I mean, it was just awful. They probably were so happy we left the mountains and moved to the beach. So, yeah, I get in trouble like that a lot. But I'm learning, okay. But like I said, it made me a lot of a better person, a kinder person. Now I understand what people go through when they move to a country. They need help. And you know what they need? People to just be nice to them online, because that's what I needed. And what they did here for me is when I couldn't understand something, a total stranger who doesn't understand English would just stand next to me, call a friend who did.
Oh, wow.
And would hand me the phone to translate. Mm. I mean, just so nice. Yeah. Just so incredibly nice, the people here.
Yeah. So you're living a great lifestyle. I mean, as I say, read the book to find out all the pros and cons of living in Costa Rica. As I say, you don't hold back, but you also tell all the nice stuff as well as the warts and all, let's say. But you're living an incredible active life now and a very healthy lifestyle. And actually, Rob has lost... he's not having stomach trouble anymore.
He's doing great. Yeah,
he's lost
40
a lot of weight.
pounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How much weight has he lost?
Around 40 pounds.
Wow. So your lifestyle has completely changed, and you're more relaxed with each other, and you're having lots of fun. So yeah, I mean, you're living the dream. You're living retirement in your 30s. And can I ask, You're not working there, so I mean, are you living off the savings all the and just being really careful of what you sold off the fish tank?
The fish tank money?
Yeah, the fish tank.
Yeah. When we moved here, we didn't have enough money for a lifetime. We knew that. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, if we can live on $1,000 a month, we can probably do like 7 years, maybe to squeeze out more. We need to figure out something, but we knew we couldn't figure out then. It would have to be with our feet on the ground before we thought of business or, anything like that. We didn't want to jump the gun on anything. So what happened, though, was the book. Right. And I just wrote these funny stories down because it's just ridiculous what my husband gets me into. Honest to God. I mean, it's really like, I love his can-do attitude, but he puts me in predicaments that are just unreasonable. So I would, after these crazy things, I'd go home and I'd write these stories. And when I put the book up for sale, and CNN picked it up, and then that was it. Fantastic. So I found my business.
Fantastic. So have you always been a writer, or is this just something new? Like, is it just because you started writing blogs about your everyday life, and it just
I always enjoyed writing. I'd always write little stories. This experience was, you just had to write. You just had to sit down and write it. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night and jot down things because I just felt like it was too good of a story not to share with people, or too ridiculous of a story not to share.
Yeah, and also your humor comes through, and you tell the story very eloquently. So it's just a brilliant read. So you've written one book and then you wrote a sequel. So Are you working on number 3? I hope so.
Yes, I'm writing the escape manual. It's the how-to, since my books are funny narratives, which tell you a little bit of how to go about moving to Costa Rica. But a lot of people email me with very specific questions about residency or buying a car or getting a driver's license, very specific things. So I said, well, it would be fun to write it, of course, in a humorous way, not a typical travel book. And it's coming along, and it'll be out this year. I'm really excited about it because it gives a lot of more in-depth information about the country with, the usual twist of funny stories and, our catchphrases, results may vary.
Nadine, it was lovely talking to you, and thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again when the new book is out.
Thank you so much, Rosie. It's been a lot of fun.